Hello, welcome to another episode of CGN Live. This is episode 17 of CGN Live. My name is Taylor of Taylor Talks Comics. I'm going to make sure I get my second screen going here. If you're joining me, thank you. Say hello. Let me know that you're in the chat. And so this is Taylor. Like I said, my name is Taylor. CGN Live, this is for cheap graphic novels. If you are a subscriber to the channel, then thank you. If not, if you've come to the channel from some other means, then please subscribe. We are closing in on 200 subscribers for this channel, which I'm pretty stoked about. Hello, Brian. How you doing, my man? So we're getting close to 200 subscribers, which is awesome. It's hard to grow channels on YouTube when you're only doing live content. I keep talking about this on the show. How we need to make more evergreen content that can sit on the channel and videos and maybe grab more audience members and stuff like that. But I'm happy with the subscribers we have regardless, and I've been really enjoying what we were doing here. So like I said, this is for cheapgraphicnovels.com, the best place to buy your comics and graphic novels. We have discounts up to 90% off on some titles. And usually on release week, we have titles that are 20 to 40% off for depending on which publisher it is and that kind of thing. Juan's in the house. Hello, Juan. How are you doing? So a couple of things before we get started. On these weekly live shows that I do, we always cover the comics and graphic novels that we will have on sale the following week. So all the books that we talked about today will be on sale on cheapgraphicnovels.com on Monday the 15th of May. That's Monday, right? The 15th, yeah. And be sure to follow us on social media at CheapGN on Twitter and on Instagram at CheapGN. On Facebook, you can just search for Cheap Graphic Novels. But on Mondays, whenever the books are ready to go live, Max will send me a text. Max is the guy that runs CGN. He'll send me a text and say the books are live, and then I throw up a post on the social media platforms to let you know that your books are able to be purchased at that point. So make sure you're following us on social media. Also, you don't want to miss out. Hey, James is in the house. Hey, James, how you doing? You don't want to miss out on any sort of sales or anything, and I will let you know that maybe soon there may or may not be a sale coming out. So you want to make sure that you follow us on social media so you won't miss out on that. And then give this video a thumbs up. And I think the last thing I want to plug is the CGN weekly newsletter. So every week I'm writing a newsletter for CGN as well. That's what I do, by the way. I know I introduced myself as Taylor, but I'm the social media guy for CGN. I do the YouTube and all the social media platforms in the newsletter. The weekly newsletter is fun. I get to write I keep it to 6 books. So I do my top 5 releases of the week and then my official Taylor Talks Comics pick of the week. And that pick of the week is usually reserved for a book that is like from a lesser known publisher. I've been trying to keep it out of Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, which are like the top 4, I think. I think one week I had to do an Image title because there wasn't like a lot coming out that week. But typically it's a smaller publisher. And I know this next week I already have the newsletter ready to go, and the pick of the week, I guess I'm going to talk about it today, is something I'm really excited about. So look forward to that on the newsletter. You want to make sure you subscribe to that. And also the newsletter, if you subscribe, we send out email blasts for any sort of sales and stuff we have going on as well. So if you follow us on all those avenues and platforms, you won't miss out on any cool things like that. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. All right, it would help if the last few weeks we've been having some internet issues. So hopefully today can be, but I'm afraid it's not looking good. There we go. I just cut out. All right, let me see. Just hang in there for me. If you can hear me. All right. If you can hear me, then why don't you type in the chat what comic books you've been reading lately? And what comic books you're excited that are going to be coming out soon. Let me know that while I try to get this set up. Okay. I think we're good. Sorry about the internet issues. Hopefully we don't have any more of those. Before I jump onto the books coming out next week, let me get some comments here. Oh, wait. I barely have time to read comics. Read a newsletter. Does it have pictures? It does actually have pictures. I put pictures of all the covers of the books that are coming out. So yeah, absolutely. It has pictures. This is a visual medium. How could it not? Hanging out. It does have pictures. Thank goodness. See, Brian's a newsletter reader. Guardians of the Galaxy by Al Ewing. That's a book I need to read. I think I'm doing a whole Cosmic Marvel read through right now, and I'm still, oh man, currently in the stage that I'm at, I'm on the volume 2 of the old Guardians of the Galaxy complete collections, like right before the Jim Valentino era, and then I've got the Nova omnibus that I'm reading. And I'm trying to think of what the other one is. Oh, Captain Marvel. I have that one on the way. So I'm trying to read all these characters that build up to the, you can't see it, but the Annihilation and the War of Kings saga. I'm trying to read like the original appearances of all those characters leading up to it. So that's what I'm currently reading. But so Al Ewing's Guardians of the Galaxy is like way far off from that, but I do want to read that. I'll probably get to it quite a while now. It's good till now. Does that mean it's gotten bad, or it's good up to what you've read so far? One, excited about the Thor omnibus and the Iron Man epic. Oh, the ones that were coming out that we're going to be talking about today. I'm super stoked about that Thor omnibus for sure. Reading Free Comic Book Day books. I Am Stan by Scioli. I don't have that one on hand, but actually I've read that twice now. I read the day of Free Comic Book Day. If anybody doesn't know, don't I have the yeah. I don't have the I Am Stan book, but I have the precursor, I guess, and that's Jack Kirby, the Epic Life of the King of Comics by Tom Scioli. Tom Scioli did this book a few years ago. I think 2018 and 19. No, 2020 actually. I'm almost certain it was 2020 because, yeah, 2020. Because this was they had a single issue for Free Comic Book Day. That was an excerpt of this book. In 2020, but then that was the year that obviously the pandemic, but Free Comic Book Day got like canceled, but then it got pushed back, and it was like a really weird Free Comic Book Day where they did like a few releases every week in like August or something. But that was one of the single issues for this, and this is an amazing book. I don't know if we have this in stock. If anybody wants me to check, I can look. But it's Tom Scioli, who's always had like a Jack Kirby type style to his artwork, and this is him doing a full biography of Jack Kirby. And I love the fact that like Jack Kirby's like the cartoon character looking guy, and everyone else looks like realistic. And it's like that typical not typical, but it's like that writing, I don't want to say trope, the writing idea that you want the main character to be the, I don't even know how to word this. Someone can help me out, but it's like you want the reader to put themselves into the main character's shoes, I guess. So by doing that, you make them stand out more than the other characters. I probably butchered that entire explanation. But the artwork's amazing. Tom Scioli's always been like a Kirby devotee and has had like a Kirby style to his artwork. So like he was like the best person to do this. And he doesn't take a lot of liberties that I know of, at least from my understanding of the history of Jack Kirby. There wasn't anything in here that I noticed that was like, okay, that's not how that really happened. Everything in here is pretty accurate to what I've read. And also I learned quite a bit of it. And I also find myself revisiting this quite a bit whenever I read like a big run of Kirby that I've never read before. I go back in here to see like what was happening during that time. But anyways, what Lohit's talking about here is I Am Stan. So Tom Scioli's doing the Stan Lee biography that will be like the follow-up to this, I guess. And the single issue excerpt came out for free comic book day, because I Am Stan will be released in a hardcover just like this from the same publisher, 10 Speed Press. But they put like an excerpt into free comic book day, a single issue, and it was really good. Like, I liked it a lot. One thing I was a little bit disappointed by with the free comic book day issue is that some of the artwork that Sholey is released online shows like some like him really breaking out and doing these new things that he hasn't really done with his artwork. Because I've read pretty much everything Tom Sholey's put out, I think, in his career. But he's like really branching out to like this, not just this Kirby clone kind of thing. Like, he's really doing his own thing. And some of the panel layouts and stuff with I Am Stan were really cool, but none of those appeared in the free comic book day issue. So I don't know if this was just like a taste and he wants people to buy the book to get the whole thing. But the issue was great. The free comic book day one, it's all about like the early Silver Age days of Marvel, which I think is like probably the stuff that people are most interested in. But I read it with my son last night before bedtime. We always read comics before bedtime, and that's the one I picked out for him to read, and he enjoyed it a lot too, because I, as you can imagine, I like to talk about comics. So, being my son, he has to hear me talk about these guys like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and Stan Lee all the time. So, as we were reading last night, he was like, "Oh, I remember him." So, yes, that's my little diatribe about that. Reading Vinland Saga and Monkey Prince. Wow. Okay. I want to hear about. I didn't know you were. I knew Brian. I knew you were getting into some manga and stuff, but Vinland Saga is like a whole thing. I wonder. I've never read it before. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. I Am Stan was good. Can't wait for the graphic novel. I agree. So the Guardians book, it's pretty good so far from what I've read. It starts off with a Rocket solo series 1 through 6, and then goes into the main story. Juan Cabal art is fire. We are Sholey fans, Taylor. Absolutely. I'll read anything that Tom Sholey puts out. No matter what he does, we will be there for sure. I was a bit confused by the I Am Stan layout. I liked it, but it didn't have a ton of context. I do agree with that, because it seemed like, and I'm curious to see how it plays out when it's printed in the hardcover, because there were like pages where it would tell like one story, and then the next page was a totally different story. So it was kind of like jarring. So when I was reading it to my son last night, I was having to fill in a lot of blanks, because like the page would end, and then I like the Wally Wood part. So the Wally Wood part with Daredevil is a pretty famous story. I can go into the whole thing, but I don't want to spend too much of your time. But the whole thing is Wally Wood came in, did a couple issues of Daredevil. Him and Stan had a falling out because of the way Wally Wood didn't feel like he was being appreciated for his talents and whatnot. And also Stan wasn't, I don't know, they had a whole falling out. But that in the I Am Stan book, they had like just one page of that, and they don't really explain what happens next, I guess, with those two. That's just one example. So I don't know if like as an excerpt from the free comic book day issue, if he was really just taking like certain pages and throwing them in, or if that's actually how it's laid out in the book. I am curious to see that. It was like Fantastic Four Grand Design. Every page is a different story. Yeah, it's kind of like that a little bit. Fantastic Four Grand Design. I think all the Grand Designs actually. I know especially Scioli and Rugg with their Grand Design projects said that they almost did each page like a Sunday strip, like the old classic Sunday strips, to where it's like the context is supposed to be just in that one page and then it moves on. So I guess it could be that style, but I don't know that the panels and layouts really lent itself too much to that in the I Am Stan excerpt I guess that I read. Like I feel like, I don't know, it's really wordy too, but it's just an excerpt, so I don't want to judge it until I see the full book. But yeah, let's get on to the books that are coming out next week. But keep chatting, keep throwing in the chat which free comic book days you liked, the big releases you enjoyed for free comic book day. I'd share your spoiler-free thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy 3 if you saw it. Please no spoilers. I've seen it, but I don't want anybody in the chat to be spoiled. But just like a rating, a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing. You don't have to get into any sort of details. And then, what books you're reading and what books you're excited that are coming out. Let me change the format here. There we go. All right, this is the front page of the website, cheapgraphicnovels.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, on the bottom right here is where you can see join our newsletter today. Just type in your email address there. There will be a confirmation email that comes in after that. Be sure to check your spam folder just in case that confirmation email went there. But you'll need to confirm that you subscribed. And then, like I said, we do weekly newsletters and then also email blasts whenever we have sales and that kind of thing. So I'm going to scroll back to the top here, click on new releases. And we keep the last 6 weeks worth of releases on here. So you can always go back and if you miss a certain week, go back to that 1 week and see all the books that came out. Or you can just watch our old live episodes on the live tab of YouTube. So it looks like today we have 30 books to talk about. And here's our first rating. Guardians of the Galaxy, thumbs up. I agree. I absolutely loved it. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy is it's definitely one of my new favorite trilogies. I'll say that. All right, so up first we have Thor, the Mighty Thor Omnibus Volume 4. Hardcover. We have 2 different cover options. Real quickly here, you'll see all these books say out of stock. I just want to reiterate, like I do every week, that just says out of stock now. Whenever I make that post that I talked about earlier on Monday nights, whenever these go on sale, that'll change to add to cart. So don't fret about that. But there'll be 2 cover options for this release. This first one is by John Buscema, and it is the direct market variant. So the direct market variant, or DM, as you'll see, is an exclusive variant that is only released to comic book shops. So like places like Cheap Graphic Novels, your local comic book shop, that kind of thing, are the only places I can sell this cover. The standard edition cover, which we'll look at it here in a second, is released everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and then also your comic book shops. So this one will be $59.99, 40% off if you shop with Cheap Graphic Novels next week, because it does carry a cover price of $100. And this is the post-Kirby era of Thor. So do I have that? I have books everywhere right now because I'm currently filming a video for my own channel. But I don't know if I can access this. All right, so Volume 3 ended with Thor 194. And I believe, when did Kirby leave? I don't know if you can see me right now, but I have like a whole stack of omnibuses on my knee. This is quite the balancing act. All right, so Kirby leaves with 179. So, okay. Okay, so if you have Volume 3, which I don't know if it's in print or not, there's about the last 14 issues of that volume are by John Buscema. That's after Kirby leaves when he goes to DC. And that ended the long run because Kirby, Stan Lee, and Larry Lieber had a huge run on Thor. It wasn't quite as long as Lee Kirby's Fantastic Four, but it was Jack Kirby's second longest run on a character. So this is like the definitive post-Kirby era because it continues on with that. And this takes us all the way to issue... Well, where's 194? Hold on a second here. We can't possibly be missing one issue. There's got to be a typo somewhere. But this takes us all the way to issue 228. Oh, never mind. I said that wrong. The Volume 3 Omnibus, don't fret, no controversy. The Volume 3 Omnibus ends on 194. This one picks up with 195. I don't know if I said 193 earlier. Don't worry, there's no missing issues. No missing issues. But this takes us all the way to issue 228 and also includes Marvel Treasury Edition Treasury Edition number 3, which is a great issue. So yeah, we have quite a few Thor issues, and this is a pretty big deal because we didn't know if we were going to get this because Volume 3 has been in stock for a number of years. So when Omar announced this one, which I'll show the standard cover here, It's kind of a surprise for everybody that they were even thinking about this. And we're hoping that this means we get a Fantastic Four Volume 5, Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6. We are getting a Hulk Volume 2 and a Daredevil Volume 2. So it seems like Marvel has not forgotten about the Silver Age and the early Bronze Age. And I hope that's the case, because these are all the omnibuses that I collect. My goal is to have the entire Marvel Silver Age on my shelf one day in omnibus format. And this is going to help with that. So this is the standard edition cover, and this one's by Gil Kane, which I think is like the more action-packed and dynamic cover. But the John Buscema cover, like, he's like the interior artist too. So I don't know. What cover do you guys prefer? Juan, you said you're looking forward to this. Which cover are you gonna pick up? I don't know. I think I'm leaning towards Gil Kane. We'll see. Oh, we've got another Guardians rating. Oh, wait, no, here we go. Guardians, thumbs down, just to mess with Taylor. Oh, come on. I know you love that movie. Taylor said things wrong. Internet on fire. Breaking news. I did. I almost started a controversy. There was going to be posts on Facebook groups, people saying that Marvel's leaving out an issue on Thor. It was going to be a big deal. So I'm glad I corrected myself before I left the show today. Up next, we have The Incredible Hulk by Peter David, Volume 5. We have two different covers here. This first one is by Dale Keown, who had a long and iconic run on Hulk with Peter David, and then went on to make his own character called Pitt and for Image. He was like in the second wave of Image. After the Founding Fathers all did their books, I think Pitt was like in the second wave of things that came out, like the Max and that kind of thing. But before that, Dale Keown did a lot of Hulk issues with Peter David. This includes Incredible Hulk 77 through 87, Hulk Destruction 1 through 4. Doesn't this include like the end also? World War Hulk prologue. Okay, so this is the total end of Peter David's initial run with the Hulk, plus a lot of ancillary things that he did afterwards that were like some mini series and whatnot. But this is Volume 5. But there's also going to be a Maestro by Peter David omnibus coming out later this year. So technically there's going to be 6 omnibuses of Peter David Hulk material, which is amazing that they have committed to that and released them in relatively short amount of time. Like the first one came out, I want to say 3 years ago. It came out maybe, but it's when the first one came out. So within at most 4 years, they've released all 5 volumes plus Maestro. And then beyond that, Peter David's still has done more Hulk stuff. Like he did, is this new Fantastic Four in here? Oh, it is. Okay. I was going to say, because that new Fantastic Four 2022 series 1 through 5, that just came out last year. Like, I can't believe we're getting an omnibus of this next week. I think issue 5 just came out like 5 months ago. It's crazy that's already in an omnibus. But he's doing a Joe Fixit series right now, which I think, Brian, if you're in the chat, I think you've already picked up the first issue of that. I don't know how many issues are out yet, but that won't be in any of these omnibuses. So Peter David continues on. Maybe potentially there'll be a volume 6 or maybe another volume. I don't know. I know Peter David is in poor health right now, which is super unfortunate. I hope he makes a recovery and he can get back to writing comics and doing all the things that he loves and be there for his family and everything. But I do want to note that Joe Fixit series will not be in any of these omnibuses. But regardless, that'll be 6 volumes of omnibuses dedicated to Peter David just doing the Green Goliath. I mean, this is the Weeks cover. The Lee Weeks is his name. So this is the standard edition cover, and both of those will be $59.99. That'll be 40% off of the cover price if you shop with cheapgraphicnovels.com. Then we have Howard the Duck Volume 2. Howard the Duck is one of my favorite characters. He was co-created and written by Steve Gerber, who's one of my favorite Marvel writers. This will be Volume 2 of the Marvel Masterworks. Oh, okay. I got a question. Oh, Juan said, when I first started getting omnibuses, I got standard covers, but now DM all the way. Yeah, it's hard. Man, I wish there was a uniformity of like, especially the classic ones, because it seems like they tried to do it at first. It was like the DM cover was matched the interior artwork, and then the standard edition cover was like the modernized version of that artwork. But then they flip-flopped a couple times. Like I know some of the Uncanny X-Men omnibuses are flip-flopped in that way. But so I don't have a definitive like I always get the DM or I always get the standard. My first thing is I want the cover to match the artwork on the inside, and then beyond that I just pick the coolest cover that I want. So the spine designs do matter too to me because sometimes they match those up. So like I know for sure the Fantastic Four omnibuses, like the Lee Kirby ones, volumes 1 through 4 on this most recent printing, when it had like the small font, they for the DM covers they had one character per spine at the bottom. So that's really cool because then you have Fantastic Four 4 volumes, they have one different character each time. But then on the standard cover, the spines were like I think 4 different images of the whole team. I don't know, but so sometimes the spine matters in my decision making. Where's Future Imperfect collected? Is there an epic? Good question. Let me see if I can find that out real fast. Like were those issues of the Hulk, or was it just a story titled that? Let me see. Well, that doesn't help me. Was it its own miniseries though? Oh, is this the end? The story with the end in it? Like where Maestro debuted, I think? Yeah, Future Imperfect 1 through 2. I believe I'm gonna find this out for you, Low Hit. I know for sure it's in one of the omnibuses. Marvel Omnibus. You're gonna test out my research skills here and how fast I am. All right, so Future Imperfect is in the Peter David Hulk Omnibus. Volume 4? 5? The end is in volume 5. I don't see Future Imperfect though. Or is that going to be in the Maestro one? Is someone chatting in here? It was Maestro's first appearance by George Perez. Future Imperfect is collected in. Okay, so people are chiming in, which I appreciate. I'm trying to beat everybody in the races. Is there a Maestro thing on here? I'm on Wikipedia right now. Which, if you didn't know, Wikipedia is a pretty good resource for Marvel epics and omnibuses. If you just search, there it is, Hulk Maestro by Peter David. Okay, so that's Future Imperfect will be in the Hulk Maestro by Peter David omnibus, which is due out in September. It'll be 952 pages. And that includes all the Maestro stuff, including the most recent Maestro World War M series that came out last year. And then the Epic Collections, it is... I know Juan already said it's in there. I don't know if he's chimed in for the which volume it is. Future Imperfect is in volume 20. It's titled Future Imperfect. So Low Hit, just look up Epic Collection Future Imperfect Hulk Epic Collection Future Imperfect, and you'll find it. Oh, Juan beat me to it. Okay. Best thing Gerber ever wrote is Man Thing. I love his Man Thing, but I think his Howard the Duck is better, personally. I always go for my favorite cover, which is usually matching the interior artwork. Man, C-Mac, you and I agree a lot on things. We had a conversation this morning about the way that we prefer comics to be restored, the color restoration and whatnot. Only time I get a variant omnibus was Aliens to avoid the Greg Land cover. Good on you. I think it was the DM cover. The Greg Land cover I think was the standard edition for that volume 1 of Aliens. The DM cover was much better because, well, the artwork's better, but also the Greg Land controversies. But I'm with you right there on that one. Maestro first appearance. Oh, I already said that. One. So that volume 20, I think. He was right on the nose. Nailed it. There's a Maestro Omni coming. Yes. Awesome. Thanks. All right. Good. What a great communal answer there. We all came together and answered that question for you. I love those kinds of questions. So if you have any other questions like that, throw them in the chat, especially if things are in stock or whatnot. If you're looking for a particular epic collection or omnibus or something like that, I can see if it's in stock at cheapgraphicnovels.com. Answer any of those questions. So right now we're looking at the Marvel Masterworks Howard the Duck Volume 2 DM variant cover. So this is volume 341 of the Marvel Masterworks. Volume 300 was where Howard the Duck's volume 1 slid in. So that 341 that's the entirety of the entire, like all of the Marvel Masterworks collection. All the volumes that come out with is 341. Number 300 was the first Howard the Duck, and they even had like that special 300 dust jacket. Like they came out with 3 covers for that one. Because I think David Gabriel, who is the, what's his official title? He's like not the PR guy, but the his name's in all the books. He's the SVP of Print, Sales, and Marketing. David Gabriel, he's the guy that Omar from Near Mint Condition talks to all the time. And I believe David Gabriel is a huge Howard the Duck fan. I think he said that's his favorite omnibus that he has is the Howard the Duck omnibus. So I'm sure that he was the one that kind of picked it for it to be 300. And he's probably excited about the rest of these Howard the Duck Masterworks coming out. This is volume 2. So the way the Masterworks work, is that this is a standard edition cover, and you can see like the silver border around it. And this will just say on the spine, Howard the Duck Volume 2. The other cover, which was the DM cover, will say like Marvel Masterworks Volume 341. So there's 2 different cover options. If you're just getting Howard the Duck stuff, then you probably just want that standard edition. But if you're a Marvel Masterworks collector that collects everything, maybe you go for that DM. But these will be $44.99 if you shop with Cheap Graphic Novels next week. Then we have a restock. And this is going to be Batman by Grant Morrison, Omnibus Volume 1. And this has a low price on it for an omnibus. I think it's less than 700 pages. I think it's like 670-ish, if I remember correctly. But this will be $44.99 if you order through Cheap Graphic Novels. I just read this for the first time a few months ago, and I was blown away. Like this was so good. Grant Morrison, I'm already a big fan of their comic book work anyways, and their writing. I think there's only been like one run of Grant Morrison's that I didn't care for too much, and it wasn't bad. It was very serviceable. Like it was very good, and a lot of people, besides myself, really enjoy it. It was his JLA run. Shouldn't hesitate to say that. So a lot of people love that run. So don't just take my opinion. But that was the only one that I was like, I prefer when Morrison really stretches out their like concepts and ideas and get like the weirder the Morrison is, the better, in my opinion. And this was certainly that. So this includes the Batman RIP storyline, which came out in like 2006-ish, 2007, around that time period. And the whole volume of this, volume 1, is like a true love letter to Batman. It talks about so many different eras of Batman, even like the goofy or like 60s era of Batman, but it does it in a very cerebral and serious way. So if you like your Batman to be like gritty and dark, it's still there. Like that's definitely the mood of the entire run, but it still addresses all those goofier eras of the 60s, which most Batman runs just ignore because they're like, it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole kind of thing. But Morrison did it beautifully. They really just knocked it out of the park with this run. I loved it. It was the best thing I could use to describe it. It's a true love letter to the entire history of Batman. And there's so many cool, like, such cool artwork in there. Like Andy Kubert blew me away with some of the issues that he was doing and some of the like panel layouts that he was working with. There's one issue in particular where there's a bunch of like little gags in the panels in the background that had to do with what the artwork was about. Oh, it's like they're in an art museum, and there was some pop art in there, like Liechtenstein style. But like the word balloons on the artwork, if you're familiar with like Lichtenstein's pop art, where he like stole a lot of comic book art from people and just like repurposed it, made millions of dollars without crediting the artist. That's a different topic. But there's like Lichtenstein type paintings, and like the word balloons had to do with what the scene was like. It was just really like next level stuff. And then J.H. Williams has some issues in there, and J.H. Williams is like mind-blowingly good as an artist. Like if you've never read J.H. Williams like sequential art, which he did the cover here that we're looking at, but J.H. Williams like sequential art is just like amazing. Like it's just I can't even fathom. I can't even put it to words. It's how good it is. But like, so J.H. Williams, he's especially nowadays, mostly known for covers, but the sequential art is amazing. So, anyways, this omnibus gets my full vote of confidence. And one other thing I'll add is this has been cited by James Gunn as being an inspiration for a future DCU property. I think it's mostly volume 2 of this omnibus run, which has like the Batman and Robin era where you see like Damian Wayne, which Damian Wayne debuts and takes a big role in this omnibus. But volume 2, when Damian Wayne is like full on Robin and running around with Batman, that run is what I think James Gunn is really cited as being the inspiration. But regardless, you want to read the whole run, and this one gets my full vote of confidence if you're looking for a good, more modern Batman run. And that'll be $44.99. It's 40% off the cover price. The Very Fine Comic Book Podcast just did an episode on the Future Imperfect Run. That's how I knew about the Epic Collection. Very Fine Comic Book Podcast. I don't think I've ever heard of that podcast. The only reason I'm pausing is because which James Abel, if he's still in the chat, will be very familiar with this joke. But Near Mint Condition is the name of Omar's channel, and I do social media for him too. But there's like a running joke between him and OmniDog's Vault, where OmniDog's, they're best friends. But Jess from OmniDog's Vault calls him Very Fine Condition as like a kind of a jab instead of Near Mint Condition. So that's why I was like, I didn't know, Juan, if you're making a joke about that, but I don't think you are, because you're talking about a podcast. So I didn't know that podcast existed. That's funny. I might have to check that out. I do prefer my comic book content to be visual, so I mostly lean towards YouTube channels and whatnot. But I don't mind listening to some good podcasts and whatnot. I might have to look that up. Up next, we have another compendium. This is the Tom Strong compendium from DC Comics. A few weeks ago, they released the Top 10 compendium, which is the run from Alan Moore. This is the Tom Strong run, which has some ties in it. Same era of Alan Moore work. And it's got some, it also lists Leah Moore, which is his daughter, and Ed Brubaker as writers on here. Artists credited are Chris Sprouse, Al Gordon, Carl Story, and others. But this includes Tom Strong 1 through 36. This was the run that he did of, that Alan Moore did for ABC Comics, America's Best Comics, for Wildstorm, which started off as an image imprint. And then Wildstorm, I guess ABC was like an imprint of Wildstorm, like an imprint of an imprint. I don't know how that works. But then DC Comics bought out Wildstorm, and that's why this is a DC release, because DC now owns all of the ABC stuff, much to Alan Moore's chagrin. But this has, it says, Alan Moore and Chris Sprouse paid tribute to the pulp heroes of the golden age of comics in this adventure-filled collection chronicling the exploits of science hero Tom Strong. This will be $35.99 if you order through Cheap Graphic Novels. Oh, wait. NMC celebrated its 7th anniversary on May 9th. Really? Why didn't I hear Omar mention that? Tom Strong is really good. I read the first 6 issues. Even Promethea by Moore is good. Even Promethea. You're saying that as if like even this one is good. All Alan Moore is great. Promethea, though, that was also an ABC title. And that is J.H. Williams, the aforementioned. J.H. Williams does all the interior art for Promethea. Up next is the Epic Collection that Juan was talking about earlier. This one is Iron Man The Crossing. this will be $29.99. This is 90s era Iron Man. It includes Iron Man 319 through 324, Avengers 390 through 394, and then Avengers The Crossing and Force Works. Whoa, Force Works is in an epic. 16 through 20 and War Machine 20 through 22. Wow, Force Works is a series that's the series that Abnett and Lanning, I think their first work on Marvel, I think, was Force Works. And that has not been collected. I don't know if those issues have been collected, actually. I know there was a Force Works complete collection that came out a few years ago, but I don't think it collected all the way up to issue 20. I don't know. But this is like the famous Avengers The Crossing storyline, which was very Iron Man heavy. NMC did a post on YouTube, Taylor. That's embarrassing. Did I mention I do social media for Near Mech Edition? I did not make that post. My memory is not that bad. I did not make that post myself, so it's not like I made the post and then forgot about it. But the Iron Man Epic Collection will be $29.99 if you order through CGN. Up next, we have a gallery edition. This is Spider-Man One More Day. This will be $26.99. These gallery editions are like the super oversized hardcovers. They're taller than DC Absolutes even. And they're the same size as like the Treasury editions, but these are hardcover. So this is the One More Day storyline, which is the most talked about Spider-Man storyline of this century. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, this will be $26.99. You can order that on Monday through CGN. That'll be 40% off. Then we have Centralia hardcover. This is from Living the Line. So Living the Line is Carson Gruball. Oh my gosh. I'm going to look it up right now. Every time I mention Living the Line, I'm always like, it's Carson Gruball and that other guy. And I really want to give the other guy credit because I'm pretty sure he does all the publishing and fulfillment of them as a publisher. So I don't want to leave him uncredited. Sean Michael Robinson. There we go. All right. Living the Line is a publisher of visually sophisticated, groundbreaking graphic novels established in 2020 by artist Sean Michael Robinson. There we go. All right. So Living the Line is Sean Michael Robinson's publishing company, and this is like their 5th or 6th release, I think. They're a new publisher, and it seems like they're doing like special projects where they I don't know if Sean Michael Robinson's like seeking them out or people hit him up for them, but he seems to be doing like one project at a time. So they do like one book project, put all the bells and whistles on it, like whether it be hardcover, softcover. The format's all different usually. Like they released a manga, I think it's called Plaza last year, and the manga, like it's a paperback, but it's like huge treasury sized. So they're really into like the formats of the comics and the presentation. They're really cool. The only one I own though is The Strange Death of Alex Raymond, which is a phenomenal looking book. And so this is another release in that. So if you're wanting to take a chance on like a lesser known publisher with maybe a creator you have never heard of, and this premise sounds cool to you, I can almost guarantee that the book's going to be beautiful the way it's presented and whatnot. If you're like into that kind of thing, which I am, like book design is something I'm really nerdy about. But this will be Centralia. It's by Miel Van de Peet. I probably butchered that. It'll be 25% off. You get it for $26.25 if you shop with CGN. The premise is the earth in and around Centralia has warmed so much it's impossible to stand on without melting. Those who survive long enough will be confronted with carnivorous birds, collapsing buildings, and the trigger-happy Simia Nasalis, armed with bazookas and stilts. Against the better judgment, a group of adventurers set out to discover the treasure of gold hidden away at the heart of an abandoned town. That premise sounds amazing. And just the cover there. Like I guess I didn't really focus in on the cover. So I guess the carnivorous birds are the white ones that are flying around. You can see the town in the background kind of melting away. And then you just have a guy with the fishing pole on top of this house. That I have to say the premise kind of sold me. I want to read this now. Okay, Destroyer Duck. This is I don't usually reveal this, but this one I'm so excited about. This is my pick of the week in the newsletter. I can't wait for this book. I can't believe it exists. I can't believe this is a book being made. It's so cool. So this is Destroyer Duck, the Graphite Edition from Tomorrow's Publishing. Tomorrow's Publishing is another publisher that puts out beautiful looking books. Mostly they do like reference books or like history of comics type books. Like they do like the Kirby Collector, Alter Ego, or a couple magazines they do regularly. They put out I don't know, they put out a lot of history of books, but they also do some old collections of comics, but in a historical presentation. And this is one of those. If you've never heard of Destroyer Duck, this is a character that was created by Steve Gerber, the aforementioned, because Steve Gerber at the time was embroiled in a heated lawsuit with Marvel. Steve Gerber was trying to claim that he had ownership rights of the creation of Howard the Duck, and that he should be able to take that character wherever he wanted. Obviously, we know how that goes with these bigger publishers. They don't typically lose those things, these lawsuits, if you will. Like Steve Ditko probably wanted SpiderMan outside of Marvel. Jack Kirby probably wanted to take the Fantastic Four outside of Marvel, but nobody really won these things. So this was in the 80s. Steve Gerber was setting up for this lawsuit. So he wanted to put out a comic book of a different character that would help raise funds for the lawsuit, because he was taking on Marvel. I mean, he needed all the money he could get to fight him in court. So he created Destroyer Duck. And then he went to Jack Kirby. And he said, Jack Kirby, will you help me make this comic book? And Jack Kirby was like, I don't know. And Steve Gerber's like, here's the thing. I can't pay you any money. You're going to have to do this for free. But I'm doing it to raise money for a lawsuit versus Marvel. Now, if you know the history of comics and you know Marvel, you know Jack Kirby, especially during this time, was having his own disputes with Marvel. So as kind of a way to get excited about it, he was like, I can stick it to Marvel and just make comics for fun. Let's do it. So Steve Gerber got Jack Kirby. Like, when Jack Kirby's name, like, he was already a Hall of Famer times 3, got him to do this comic book for free just to stick it to Marvel. So the Destroyer Duck character, that's not where it ends, though. It very much inside these issues, it takes Marvel to task within the panels. There's all kinds of gags and funny jokes and funny like elbows, nudging towards Marvel in a very satirical kind of way. So it's action packed. It's I mean, as you can imagine, it's Jack Kirby doing this duck. It's action packed, but it's also like this historical, like, constant jabs at Marvel. So this book, and I don't know who owns the rights to publishing the issues outright. And I don't know if that's how Tomorrow's got around the idea of just collecting the issues as they are. Because this is a graphite edition. This is going to collect it as if it's an art book. And there's a preview on the Tomorrow's website that there's like a long preview. Like, you can read like 20 pages of this book, I think, on Tomorrow's Publishing's website. I read it last night. But there's going to be, so it's a graphite edition, so it's going to be presented like an art book. There's going to collect issues 1 through 5 on here, including some of Steve Gerber's script pages where he explains the character. And there are some pages where they have Alfredo Alcala's inks, which that was always a thing. Like, who was the best Kirby inker? Alfredo Alcala didn't do a lot of inking on Kirby in his time, but he did for these issues. So there's going to be a little bit of that too. Most of it's going to be just penciled, uninked art, just like you can imagine with the graphite edition. But it's going to present all 5 of the first issues in that style, but also it's going to have a bunch of historical things added in. It's going to be like a true coffee table book. It's going to have like the history behind this run. It's going to have script pages from Gerber, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be 144 pages. It's going to be $25.56, 20% off if you order through CGN next week. It is my Taylor Talks Comics pick of the week. I love Gerber. I love Kirby. I love the story behind this book. It's so like punk rock. I'm going to shove it back in your face to the corporation kind of thing. I can't wait for this. So that's my official Taylor Talks Comics pick of the week. Destroyer Duck, the graphite edition. It's only $25. Then we have Mech Cadets, book 1. This had a Free Comic Book Day issue from the story, so it was very timely that they did that right before this trade paperback came out. Excuse me. It's also gearing up. You can see on the bottom left of the cover there, gearing up for a Netflix series that's going to be coming out. And this is by Boom Entertainment. Greg Pak is the writer, and Takeshi Miyazawa is the artist. And what else did he do? Does it say in the description? Oh, Runaways. That's right. Okay, and Miss Marvel. That's right. So Takeshi Miyazawa did the Runaways series with Brian K. Vaughan, and then he did Ms. Marvel, the Kamala Khan series with shoot, what's the lady's name? Who did Miss Marvel? Oh man. I'm gonna try to beat the checks. I know someone's gonna chime in here a second. Takeshi Miyazawa. Who's the writer? G. Willow Wilson. Got it. Did I beat everybody? Okay, nobody else chimed in. G. Willow Wilson series, which is phenomenal too. So I love Miyazawa's artwork. Greg Pak is a great writer. And this includes all 12 issues of Mech Cadet U. So here's the premise. Every 4 years, giant sentient robots from outer space come to Earth and bond forever with a brand new crop of Sky Corps Academy cadets. So this is definitely like your mech kind of like manga inspired kind of story, but it's going to be done by Greg Pak, done from American company, but it's definitely got these influences from manga and anime, that kind of thing. I can't talk. I don't know what. My brain just malfunctioned. I think Destroyer Duck twisted it all up. Now we have Navigator. It's a hardcover from Dark Horse Comics. And this is a graphic novel. So it's an alien navigator captured in battle on Jupiter's fourth moon, Europa, seeks sanctuary. In return, the alien will provide his advanced technology to help defend mankind from the alien force that enslaved him and has come to destroy us. In this backdrop is a story of love and reconciliation. Visual effects mastermind John Bruno creates a space adventure of epic proportions. This looks really cool. I've never even heard of this. It is only $17.49 if you order through CGN, and looks just to be like a hardcover. It kind of gives me like European comics vibe. We have Elephant Men 2261 Volume 1. This is Richard Starking's comic book. He's the writer with Axel Medlin on art. This is the it's an omnibus, and it collects Elephant Men 2261 seasons 1 and 2. It's Blade Runner meets Planet of the Apes in the next adventure of the pulp science fiction series Elephant Men, which debuted nearly 15 years ago and 80 issues ago from Image. So the reason why I was pausing here, because I know Elephant Men is being now taken to Dark Horse. It's been published by Image in the past. It's a series that I've always wanted to read because it feels like it's right up my alley. The idea, I mean, just the premise there, Blade Runner meets Planet of the Apes, and then pulp science fiction, I'm sold. But I've never read it. I know it's been released in like oversized hardcovers and trade paperbacks before, but it's always been kind of a oh, sorry, I was reading the chat there. It's always been like I didn't know where to start kind of thing. So if anybody in the chat is experienced with Elephant Men, is this a good place to start, or is this like a newer series of it? Because regardless, I hope that Dark Horse reprints like all the stuff from the beginning, so I know a good place to start. That would be nice. Even in trade paperbacks, I'll take some omnibuses. Let's see in the chat here. There's a surprise waiting for you back in the chat. It's so brilliant, I'm dying. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know how entertaining that is for the chat here, because they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, in the chat, keep letting me know what you guys are reading or what you're excited about. Any questions you have. Up next, we have Blink from Oni Press. This is by Christopher Sabella and Hayden Sherman. This will be $16.49 if you order through CGN. And it doesn't say what issues it collects. It might just be an all-in-one graphic novel. Ren Booker was 3 when she found was found alone and covered in blood on the streets of New York. Since that day, she's been haunted by the childhood she can't remember until decades later when she finds a cryptic website streaming multiple CCTV feeds from strange rooms in a ruined building. All right, so it seems like it's science fiction, like a thriller of sorts. The cover evokes a troubling image, unsettling. Someone's got a camera in their brain, it looks like. That looks pretty cool. Then we have Self, trade paperback from Dark Horse Comics. The writer is Sabella. Christopher Sabella has 2 comic books coming out the same day. One by Oni Press and one from Dark Horse. That's got to be a busy time for him. That's interesting. Okay, so this is one of the comic books series that was on Comixology's original digital series. So this is the first time it's seeing print, but it's called Self. Kara McGee is the artist. Postscript backs up everything about a person into a file ready to be loaded into a printed body that offers one final chance to wrap up loose ends after they've died. So another science fiction type thriller, sounds like. Then we have Dark One, which is Brandon Sanderson's. Okay, so Brandon Sanderson, the very famous fantasy writer. He's writing a comic book, it looks like, for Vault Comics. Nathan Gooden and Tim Daniel are the artists. And this is volume 1. And it looks to just be a graphic novel. Okay. But it's volume 1 from Vault Comics. If you're a Brandon Sanderson fan, maybe try that out. Then we've got The Roadie from Tim Seeley and Fran Gillan from Dark Horse Comics. This will be $13.99. Seeley and Gillan comes his horror saga about nostalgia, heavy metal music, hell, and redemption. More than 35 years after his heyday, a former heavy metal roadie must return to the back roads of America to do a job he thought he'd retire from. Exorcist. I just love that that premise. Exorcist. It looks the 4-issue miniseries. It looks to be a one and done type deal. That'll be $13.99. Critical Role, the Mighty Nine Origins Molly Mock Tea Leaf hardcover. That'll be $12.59. And Black Adam. Theogony? I probably butchered that. How do you pronounce that? Low Hit, you're in here. How do you pronounce that title? But this is Christopher Priest is writing this with Rafa Sandoval, Eddie Barrows, and Eber Ferreira on art. This will be $11.99 and includes Black Adam 1 through 6. So if you're a big Black Adam fan, or Christopher Priest, this is volume 1. Christopher Priest is a very different writer that he's almost like, if you're a big fan of like Jonathan Hickman, where he like dangles these plot threads at the beginning and maybe has a little bit of time jumping in the story. Like you might have like a flashback and then a future scene and then a present scene. Christopher Priest does a lot of those similar things that Jonathan Hickman does, especially like in his Black Panther run, in his Deathstroke. So I wonder if he does that kind of stuff with Black Adam. Then we have The Amazing Spider-Man by Zeb Wells, Volume 4, Dark Web trade paperback. I think last week we had a couple Dark Web trade paperbacks come out. We had like the storyline come out, and then I think a Venom one. So this includes the Amazing Spider-Man portion of Dark Web, Amazing Spider-Man 15 through 18, Dark Web number 1, and Dark Web Finale number 1. That'd be $11.99. Spawn Gunslinger. Gunslinger Spawn is the name. Volume 2, trade paperback. This will be $11.89. Todd McFarlane is the writer. Brett Booth is the artist. It'll include Gunslinger Spawn issues 7 through 12. That's a series that I hear a lot of hype about. But I wonder if you're not keeping up with Spawn, if it would still be enjoyable. Like, is it really just Spawn in the West? In the Old West? Like, how much tied to the current Spawn continuity is it? Let me know in the chat if you know. Rogue Sun Volume 2. This is by Ryan Parrott, but this is part of the overarching, what's it called? The what's that series called? By Ryan Kyle Higgins. Kyle Higgins Image series. Name of it. Radiant Black. This is part of the Radiant Black universe, but Ryan Parrott is writing this portion of it, the Rogue Sun portion, and which is really interesting because Kyle Higgins wrote Power Rangers for Boom, and then Ryan Parrott took over the Power Rangers title after Kyle Higgins left. So then a few years passed. Kyle Higgins then did this Radiant Black series, which is supposed to evoke a lot of his influences that he has personally from things like tokusatsu type series like Power Rangers. And then Ryan Parrott has joined in. So it's like the two Power Rangers guys are now writing their own creator-owned series, if you will. But this will be 1189 and includes the Rogue Sun. It doesn't say which issues. Massive Verse is what it's called, though, not the Radiant Black universe. It's called Massive Verse. Is what that thing is. What that universe is called. We have X-Men Legends Past Meets Future from Roy Thomas. This is the new stuff, but this is the new stuff where a bunch of old creators revisits very specific time periods of X-Men. In continuity set in X-Men's legendary past, first writer Roy Thomas returns to bridge the gap between the 60s run and the team redefining Giant Size X-Men #1. Okay, so I think I talked about that last week. There was a period of like 4 or 5 years where there's no new X-Men comics happening. Roy Thomas ended it with issue 63 or something, X-Men 63. And then it wasn't until like 4 or 5 years later with Giant Size X-Men that Len Wein and David Cockrum restarted or rebooted, not rebooted because it still takes into account that, restarted the X-Men series with new characters. So there's always that period of time in story and continuity, what was happening between those two periods. And John Byrne did a series called The Hidden Years, which is getting an omnibus later this year. And that's the only reason I bring this up, because if Roy Thomas is telling a story that takes place between those, does it take into account what John Byrne did, or are they just two different versions of the same story? Let me know in the chat if you know that answer. But Anna Cinti is back as well, where she's revisiting Longshot. So this includes 6 different issues in all. It's like an anthology because each of the 6 issues is a different story, but they have former creators revisiting very specific times of X-Men. So each issue is a different time period of X-Men being revisited by different creators, I guess would be the best way to put that. That'll be 1079. Then we have Flawed, trade paperback, from Chuck Brown, the co-writer of Bitter Root, and superstar artist Prenzy. They reunite for an ultra-violent, high-octane thrill ride. That's Frasier meets the Punisher. Wow. Okay, that's a premise. Frasier, like the sitcom Frasier meets the Punisher. That's interesting. This includes Flawed issues 1 through 6. Hotel REM or Hotel Rim. Rembrandt Somner is the happy-go-lucky new owner of Hotel Rim, a place for all fantastic people and creatures in our dreams to hang out when we wake up. Channeling his endless enthusiasm, Rim attempts to balance his unwieldy co-workers and wild guests in order to run a successful business. That looks like it could be a lot of fun. Looks like it'd make a very fun sitcom. All these wacky characters inside of a hotel. That'll be 1049. We have Captain Marvel Volume 9, Revenge of the Brood Part 1. That's the Kelly Thompson run that's currently ongoing. That'll be 959. Kamen Rider Kuga Volume 3, 909. $9.09. That'll be from Titan Comics. And then Year Zero, Volume 0, trade paperback. This hit action-packed prelude to the hit series, acclaimed horror writer Daniel Kraus unveils 4 globe-spanning tales from the earliest days of the zombie apocalypse, when even the wildest rumors couldn't measure up to the horror to come. And that'll be $7.49 next week if you order through cheapgraphicnovels.com. We went over a little bit over an hour, but we had some good conversation earlier. I appreciate that. Appreciate you joining me in the chat. Please, before you leave, don't forget to follow us on social media at CheapGN on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to our newsletter. You don't want to miss that out or miss out on that. Those newsletters usually drop on Mondays, but there will be email blasts that come out as surprises. You never know when they're coming, but they'll let you know when the sales are coming, if there are any. which there might be one coming in later. And then subscribe to this YouTube channel, give it a thumbs up, and then the best thing you could do for me is to share this YouTube channel on your social media. It's a free way to help support the channel and support CGN, the best place to buy comics and graphic novels. We are closing in on 200 subscribers. I want to get there by the end of this week. That's my goal, 200 subs by the end of this week. We're only like 4 away. So if 4 of you can get 4 people to subscribe, we'll get there. So if you can do that, I appreciate that as well. My name is Taylor of Taylor Talks Comics. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day. Keep reading comics.